Joining me now is Donna Bedell, a manager in community programs at Heart and Stroke. Donna knows firsthand the importance of the Canadian Heart and Stroke program and is here to share her story. Donna, tell us a little bit about the Heart and Stroke Foundation and what your role is there.
Sure. So my role is I am the senior community relationship manager for this region, actually manage sort of Ontario Central West. And so my job is really to be a community liaison between what we do at the Heart and Stroke and connecting to the community. So from a foundation perspective, we've actually been around a long time. We were started in 1952 by a visionary group of Canadians that included physicians and researchers who thought that they could bring together their knowledge and expertise to have lives free of heart disease and stroke. We've been around for, I guess it's almost 70 years now. Next year will be 70 years. And although the structure has changed, the mission has not, which is really lives uninterrupted by heart disease and stroke. And we do this by focusing on a number of things: prevention, saving lives, transforming recovery, and investing in some life-saving research. Over the last, little known, I guess, but over the last almost 70 years, we've invested $1.55 billion in research, second only to the federal government. And it has really transformed the lives of people across this country.
Donna, I know you have a personal story as to why the Heart and Stroke Foundation matters so much to you. Could you please share with us today?
Absolutely. So, yeah, my family, heart disease runs in my family. And in fact, we've been affected by it a lot. My father had a very severe heart attack, and now I want to say it's 32 or 33 years ago. He was 55 years old at the time, and he's a physician, so he knew what was happening, and it happened actually right here in Burlington. And he was at Joseph Brand Hospital, but he was in the hospital for 6 weeks and in intensive care for 3. And since that time, he's now 89 years old, so a long time has passed, and it's really due to things that Heart and Stroke has done. Like, he has a pacemaker defibrillator implanted that's gone off several times and saved his life. And it's through things like that I've seen firsthand how the foundation changes lives. It's certainly changed ours. My father almost died. My brother was in India at the time, and we had to find him and almost call him back because it was that critical. And now, 34 years later, he has 7 grandchildren, and we just celebrated the birth of his first great grandchild. So it's impressive.
I was talking with Chris from the Canadian Blood Donor Services earlier in our segment today in regards to, it's one of those things with our health that we don't really realize how important it is or how much we need these types of programs and services in our community until it happens to us or someone close to us. And then we realize how the need for blood or the need for heart and stroke resources in our community. So how does Heart and Stroke impact our local community here in Halton?
Well, you're right? We don't often realize the need until we are personally affected by it. Now, what I'd like to say is that we are almost all going to be affected by it. 9 out of 10 people have at least one risk factor for heart disease and stroke. But through the work that we do, we can prevent that, right? So 80% of premature heart disease and stroke is prevented. So some of the ways right here in Halton things that we do here in Halton to prevent that. And these are really things that we do in communities across the country, but it really starts with education. So you may be aware that we have a program called Jump Rope for Heart that's in schools. It's a fundraising program, but it is also very much an education program. So what we're trying to do through Jump Rope for Heart, and we reach millions of students across the country, is educate them on the easy habits that they can put in place for lifelong better health. And also, we have educated them on the fast signs of stroke. And there have been now several instances where young people have saved the lives of the people that they love by recognizing the signs of strokes and calling 911. There's an instance of an 8-year-old boy out in Alberta. He called 911 because his father, who was a firefighter, was having a stroke. He was able to say to the 911 operator, describe the signs and symptoms. It was 4 days after his Jump Rope for Heart assembly at school where they went through the fast signs of stroke. So it's by doing things like that. We have a program called Activate, which is for people with hypertension and high blood pressure. It's through CPR, where we are training people, advocating for the CPR registry, by training people on how to do hands-only CPR, by putting AEDs in communities, and by putting systems in place all over the country that we're able to really help people. It's here in Halton, we placed a number of AEDs. Their Activate ran here actively last year, and many people were reached through that program. But it's really through all of these things and the research that we do, and having centers of care where people are able to go and get specialized care for things like cardiac care or stroke care. And that's all the result of heart disease and stroke. So for instance, here, if you were to have a stroke, you would be directed to the nearest stroke center. There'd be a team of people able to receive you, administer maybe TPA, which is the blood busting drug, so that you could get exactly the care that you needed by the people that are able to deliver it best. And those stroke centers of care are the result of the research and work that Heart and Stroke did to say, okay, this is what we need in order to optimize what we do.
I remember Jump Rope for Heart when I was in elementary school. It was one of my favorite days because we also got to be outside in the sunshine and, jump and enjoy. And my children are doing that now in school. So that's a program I won't age myself, Donna, but that's been around for a while. And it is absolutely, you're right, an incredible program and a great fundraising opportunity, I would imagine, as well.
Yes, it is. It's actually, from a community-based perspective, it's our largest fundraising opportunity because, people love to help their children, and it is fun. And I think next year is the 40th anniversary of Jump Rope for Heart. Yeah.
Wow. It's definitely a great event, and something my children certainly look forward to every year. You mentioned because they get to be outside, right?
I know, absolutely.
We're missing school. You mentioned the fast, the signs of fast, and can you tell us a little bit about what we should be looking for and what we do need to know about that?
Absolutely. So FAST is an acronym that stands for face, arms, speech, and time. So it's meant for you to recognize the signs of stroke. So if you see somebody whose face is drooping on one side, that could be a sign of a stroke. If you put your arms out in front of you and one of them drops, that's another sign. If somebody is speaking and their speech is slurred or jumbled, that's another sign. And T stands for time, which is probably the most important thing. So if you see somebody exhibiting any of these signs, the most important thing you can do is call 911 right away. And it's very important. I want to reiterate this, to call 911. Sometimes we think, I live 5 minutes away from a hospital, I'm just going to put this person in the car and drive them there. Well, the reason why you want to call 911 is that, again, there are centers of care that specialize in stroke care. So we're sort of in the middle of two. One is at Trillium Health Partners in Mississauga and Hamilton Health Sciences in Hamilton. Yeah. But if you call 911 and you're having a stroke, that's likely where you're going to be taken, and there will be a team of specialists there ready to receive you and do what needs to be done to help save your life. So it's really important to call 911 when these things are happening, because then you're going to be directed to the place that's best able to provide the top-notch care that you need for a better recovery.
What is the organization's most critical need right now? What are you going through, especially as we've moved through COVID? What are you seeing, and how can we as a community help?
Absolutely. Well, one of the things, as you know, I'm sure you may have spoken to other health charities or charities in general, we've been affected by COVID because 95% of our funds come from donations that we receive and from the events that we hold. And unfortunately, last year, due to COVID, we weren't able to hold a number of those events, and we had to postpone them. And we saw an immediate $25 million revenue drop.
Wow.
I know, it's significant. And and to be fair, it's not unlike other charitable organizations as well, but the need here is very great. And what we've also seen is people with heart disease and stroke are at greater risk should they contract COVID, right? So there's definitely sort of some comorbidities there with what we're seeing. The research has shown us with COVID as well. And so it's more important than ever to make sure that we can do the work that we need to do in order to continue with our mission. And so, I mean, our greatest need right now probably is financial in order to kind of raise the funds back up to the level that we need in order to fulfill our mission and really help Canadians in this community and across the country.
You've mentioned your mission a couple of times, Donna. Could you please repeat what your mission and vision is for the Heart and Stroke Foundation?
It is a very simple one. It is life uninterrupted by heart disease and stroke. You know, and all that means, whether that's you're a caregiver for somebody, whether you're suffering from that yourself. It's really to improve the lives of Canadians across the country so they don't suffer from these diseases, especially needlessly.
And you've mentioned financial, obviously, which is a large component of all of our local not-for-profits right now. And we are seeing it across the board. You're absolutely right. How can local businesses help the Heart and Stroke Foundation?
Sure. Actually, well, one of the things that we've done this year, learning from last year, we've taken all of our events, our major events, online this year. So, you know, an example would be our Ride for Heart, which is normally an event that takes place in Toronto every year. The DVP and the Gardner are shut down, and it's a run, ride, and walk. This year, we've actually, because of COVID, been able to take it national and virtual. So businesses and corporations have always been a big part of RIDE. This year, as an example, they could enter a team, participate in some challenges, but it would be virtual. We're asking people to do a heart-shaped run, ride, or walk route. Yeah. And they can do it. Normally it takes place the first Sunday in June, and that's still going to happen. Like, we still want to bring the community together. There'll be videos and things happening on that day, but it can also happen anytime during the month of June. So we're also hoping that companies, that by that time, maybe people can gather in small groups and get together and do things in a face-to-face way if they choose to, if it's safe to do so. But it's a great way to contribute, to join a corporate team, and to get sort of some team fundraising and challenging going. And we'll be having fitness challenges along the way to get people ready as well. We also have a program new this year called Fundraise Your Way, and it's fundraiseyourway.ca. You can go and you can create your own fundraiser. You can, so if people like scrapbooking, or they want to do a team trivia event, or they want to do a fitness challenge, we have somebody who's actually running 5 kilometers every day for this whole year to raise money in memory of his father. So businesses can do that, individuals can do that, and they can contact somebody like me through our local office to see what they can do. So we've got folks, or they can call or go on heartandstroke.ca and find out ways that they can contribute that way.
What is the takeaway? What is the message that you want people to know today?
What I want people to know, and I think it's really important, so thank you for asking, is that heart and stroke are medical emergencies. So one thing that I do want to make people aware of is that you need to call 911 if you're experiencing the signs and symptoms of a heart attack or a stroke. Unfortunately, we have seen a 40% decrease in people presenting to emergency rooms with these signs and symptoms. And it's not because there's a 40% decrease in heart attacks and strokes. Certainly initially at the pandemic, people were afraid to go to the hospital. These are medical emergencies, and you need to call 911. It could save a life. So I think that's really what I want people to be aware of. As much as, yes, we also want to be aware of fundraising opportunities and those sorts of things, it's really important to know that if you're experiencing these signs and symptoms, you need to call 911 and you need to get to the hospital.
I think that's an excellent takeaway message, because you're absolutely right. It's one of those things, hop in the car, off we go, but calling 911 is obviously the best case scenario here. Thank you very much for your time today and sharing your story with us. I appreciate it, and best of luck.
Oh, thank you so much, Kimberly. And thanks for having me on today and for this opportunity. I appreciate it as well.